Well, I'm Vivian Balakrishnan. I was the president of the second NUSSU Council. In fact, I think I was president for 2 terms and chairman during my final year. My years in NUS as an undergraduate were some of the best years of my life. The advantage of medical school is that it's 5 years long. So you got a long stretch to know a lot of people from different faculties. And being in the union gave me great opportunities to organize, to meet, to deal with criticisms, to embark on new projects, as well as continue important legacy projects like Rag and Flag. So those were great years.
So, have you ever participated in Rag and Flag?
Yes. Rag and Flag was the highlight of our orientation. So in fact, it would typically be the climax or the final event of the orientation period. It was a time of great activity, all the faculty clubs, all the hostels. We would literally spend several nights, days and nights, overnight, preparing the floats. In those years, there was no subsidy and all that, so we had to be very careful with expenditure because it was our own resources. So there wasn't an issue of wastage. It was a matter of exercising imagination, coming up with something which would make a statement. But actually, to be honest with you, more important than the float itself was the process. The fact that we made new friends, we had to work on a common project together. We literally saw it take shape, over the days and nights spent on it. So I would say the most important thing was the friendships, the relationships, the memories that were created. The float was almost incidental to the relationships, friendships, and the experiences. But having said that, the day itself, you actually parade the floats, you have the song fights, you have, it's in good-natured fun, the competition between hostels, between faculties. It's almost a kind of a tribalism. But I think it was in a positive sense. I mean, of course, sometimes people get carried away, you take the competition too seriously, or the song fights become too aggressive. But by and large, the vast majority of us, in fact, I would say all of us, had great fun. The other element to it was that there was always a fundraising component to it. And it reflected our consciousness that as undergraduates, actually we were privileged. We were getting highly subsidized education, opportunities were going to open up to us. So this reminder that we have to contribute back to society. So the fundraising component was also an occasion to reflect on our own blessings and to share that, especially with people who are less well off or didn't have all the advantages that undergraduates had. So all in all, when I look back, those were great years, and Rag and Flag was a highlight. And it's really the memories, the friendships, the experiences that lasted.
Do you have any particular memories or incidents that you like to share? Any that stand out?
Well, there were so many. I mean, I took part in every Rag and Flag over those 5 years, starting as a first-year student. I wouldn't highlight any particular year over the other, but as I said, over the years, the friendships, the opportunities to meet new people, and the friendly, I say friendly in inverted commas, competition. Those are the memories that remain. If you ask me now, so many years later, to describe the exact float, I can't. But that's the point I actually wanted to make, you see. The process is perhaps even more important than the final output. It's in the end, it's all about people. It's your classmates, your faculty mates, your friends that you will make the memories that you take away. That's far more important than the float that you make. The float is an opportunity to make friends and make memories.
Can you tell us maybe a bit more
Yes.
of like describe what a song fight is? Because these days I don't think we have.
Well, I mean, every hostel or every faculty have its own favorite songs. And I mean, it's just harmless fun and who can yell or sing the loudest. Of course, there would be insults and other barbs traded across. But it was harmless fun.
Do you remember any songs?
No, I can't sing any song right now. I can't. But you mean you don't have that anymore?
We don't think so.
Think so?
Oh.
It's just a very simple cheer or something like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've attended, in the more recent years, I have attended Rag and Flag. What I would say is that in the more recent years, it has become more highly sophisticated. You know, the quality of your floats, the sophistication that has gone into it, even the choreography. You know, now it's literally almost a stage production. We were not at your level, you know. So ours were, you know, if you look back at what we did now, we would be amateurs. Yours would be professional productions. But you know, but really, I just wanted to re-emphasize that point. It's the friends, memories, and the experience that makes all the difference.
So we noticed that during you served 2 terms as president. Maybe you could. Was there anything pertaining towards Rag and Flag that you oversaw during your term as president?
No, when I entered NUS in 1980. In fact, that was the first year that they had merged the previous Nanyang University with the University of Singapore. So it was a time of transition, a time of change, a time when students were really more focused on studies than anything else. So even participation in union activities and orientation activities, the challenge was to get people interested, to get people to participate, to persuade people to serve on committees, on organizing committees. So it was a challenge at that point in time for people in the union, people in the faculty clubs, people in the hostels. So that was our chief challenge, to get people interested, to get them out of their books. Orientation was important because it was, in a sense, lessons had not really started full steam yet. And it was an opportunity to remind people, you know, please get to know each other. There's going to be lots of time to study, but enjoy yourselves, get to know each other. So that was my chief challenge, participation.
A lot of people were interested in studying. So
Yep.
why were you Why were you different? Why did you believe in participating instead?
I studied very hard for the first 3 months in first year because I had just gotten a scholarship and I assumed that, you know, I have to do well to justify it. But after a while, I decided, there was more to life than studies. And the union gave me great opportunities to do a lot of other things and meet a lot of other people. And, you know, in retrospect, sacrificing some grades in exchange for lots of time, and to spend that time organizing things, joining committees, meeting people, taking part in debates. I had a very full and very diverse university experience. Now, when I look back, I think if I hadn't had that diverse set of experiences in universities, I would have had far fewer opportunities later in life. So if anything, my plea to the students of today is please don't just spend all your days in the library or with your books. Yes, those are important, but there's more to life than that. And you will find that, in fact, the lessons that you've learned outside the library, the friends that you've made, doing all kinds of crazy things, these relationships and experiences and lessons are just as important, if not even more important, than what you study. And it will give you opportunities later in life. So that would be my message to the students of today.
Some people will say that, it's fine if I just help on this project or that project. Like, why run for president and why do it for 2 terms?
Oh, well, no, things were so bad that in my second year, when I stood for election, I was unopposed. It was that bad. Nobody wanted to be in the council. We had the outgoing council members had to con other people to come in. In turn, I had to do that. What I'm most happy about is by the time I left the union, there was competition. At the elections, there was competition for posts, which meant that we had made it relevant or at least interesting, sufficient to the point that people actually did want to take part, did want to get involved and to organize and to do things. So I have some satisfaction from that. I'd rather have passion, enthusiasm, competition instead of apathy and just everyone just losing themselves in the books. So I hope your cohort of students have done more than just the books.
I hope
But
so.
I'm probably speaking to the converted down here, right? By definition.
So was it like a friend who, conned you into joining?
Well, how did it start? Let's see. I was in medical school. At that time, the medical school was in Sepoy Lines, where SGH is. Actually, it's where the current Duke Medical School is. That was our hostel for medical students. I used to spend a lot of time on table soccer. We had a real broken down machine down there. So one of my seniors said, look, instead of you wasting all your time playing this, why don't you come and help out in the union? So that's how I got involved.
Do you still remember that friend?
Yeah, it's Dr. John Lee. Yes, Dr. John Lee. Several years my senior. He was he was a medical student too.
We noticed during your time that, in fact, between when Rag first started in 1957
Yes.
until the 1980s, it was raising maybe consistently around 10 to 15K per year.
Yeah, but after that it expanded.
It expanded very
considerably.
rapidly.
Yes.
In fact, between 1980 and 1985, it
Yes.
almost doubled.
Oh yes,
every
yes,
single year. So we're wondering,
yes.
maybe you could shed some light on that.
Well, I think a couple of reasons. Number one, the undergraduate population expanded considerably. Well, if you go back to 1957, probably less than 1% of the population of the cohort entered university. By the time I went in 1980, it was probably maybe about 5% of the cohort. Today, the universities, you take all the autonomous universities, it's 30+% of the cohort enters university. So the first factor is that the number of undergraduates has expanded. The second factor is that if you think of Singapore from 1957 to Singapore today, clearly, financially, economically, we have succeeded by leaps and bounds. So there is greater availability of resources. Thirdly, I think people have this desire to do good, to help each other, to help especially people who are less well off. So this has led to an increase in generosity, an increase in the support levels that Rag Flag has been able to generate. So I think it's due to multiple factors, but this is something worth celebrating. It reflects the success of Singapore. It reflects the strength of the Singapore spirit. It reflects the fact that Singaporeans are compassionate and they care and we share.
We noticed that in 1983 when community chairs were set up,
Yes.
NUSSU became one of the biggest, immediately
Yes.
became one of the biggest supporters.
Yes.
Did you play a role in that?
No, I don't want to take credit for that, but yes, I mean, the community chest was set up at that period. The community chest was set up because we wanted to encourage this concept of the community, ordinary people, undergraduates, workers, everyone, having opportunities to contribute, to serve, and to help. It actually has a lot to do with the ethos of Singapore. You know, Singapore has succeeded over the last 50 years because we've had a very hardworking population. We had a pioneer generation that believed in working hard, in saving, in discharging filial and family responsibilities. So this, you know, special ethos, hard work, discipline, saving, looking after your families brought us very far. But we also have to extend this into expressing compassion and expressing this in a practical way by offering a hand of support to people who are less well off. So that was so in a sense, you go back to the 1980s. By that time, Singapore had already grown very considerably compared to the 50s and the 60s. And our growth rates were very high, even higher than it is today.
Do you have any examples?
No, I think if
illustrate it for us.
today's growth rate will be, say, 3 to 5%. In the 80s, you would see growth rates of 8 to 10%. I mean, you can go back and check that. So it was a time that the economy was booming. I'm talking about the early 80s. We can talk about after that. The economy was booming, there were lots of jobs. Undergraduates knew you studied, did well, got a degree. There were so many opportunities. So in the midst of success, it was important to also signal the need for compassion, for generosity, and for care for people who were not as fortunate, who were not as blessed, who did not have as many advantages as the people who were in NUS. So I think that's why, in a sense, the flag component of Rag and Flag became even more important during that phase. But over the years, it has continued to grow, and I've been very encouraged by the fact that this tradition has continued, and NUS has continued to be a very generous donor to the community chest. It's been a privilege. It was a privilege to get into NUS. It was a privilege to get a degree. It was a privilege to serve in the union, a privilege to learn many things outside the books. And I see what I'm doing now as, in a sense, an extension or an application of what I learned in NUS. That's why I am fiercely proud of the fact that I'm an NUS graduate, and I always make myself available to support NUS.
We were wondering, to what extent do you still help out or come back to?
Come back quite often. Whenever they ask, various things, whether to attend events or to deliver speeches or to take part in seminars. I try to come back to NUS several times a year. I will have this to say. I think most times you're not going to be thanked. So don't enter the union expecting people to thank you. You're far more likely to get a motion of regret or no confidence than a motion of thanks. So don't do it expecting thanks, but do it because you want to serve. Appreciate the lessons that you will learn and the friends that you will make. And that is more than enough to make it worthwhile. Yeah, so don't worry.
It's fine that earlier on you mentioned in your interview that how our university education is heavily subsidized, and
Yes.
when we do rag and flag, we kind of give back to society.
Yes.
Do you remember like giving a speech to that effect when?
Oh, that was a long time ago.
President?
That was a long time. Yeah, I think it may have been in a forward that was written. I think it was a long time ago.
We were wondering, so we actually managed to get a quote from the Straits Times.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, like we hand-wrote it, we don't have time to print it, but we were wondering if we could like just read a bit out of it and maybe tell us what you were thinking or what was the context then.
Oh, actually, it's similar to what I just said, isn't it?
It's amazing that
It's
you're
amazing that
still
you
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the ideas are still there, right?
Yeah.
Number one, it's great to be an NUS undergraduate. Great opportunity, it's a privilege. And as Singapore succeeds, there'll be greater opportunities later on as well. But because we are privileged, there's a duty to serve, there's a duty to return. And Rag and Flag, in a sense, encapsulates that concept of appreciating our good fortune, appreciating our opportunities, expressing compassion, looking after others, returning to our society. And also, the choice of the float, the message you wanted to convey, could also be topical and relate to the issues of the day. Like I said, if you go back to the 1980s, the issues at that time, this was the time the Soviet Union had invaded Afghanistan. This was the time there was still turmoil in Indochina. So in the midst of geopolitical and regional instability, here was this little red dot called Singapore doing well. And, as undergraduates, we had every reason to expect or hope that we will continue to do well and have opportunity. So it's this dual appreciation, that here we are fortunate, blessed, and have opportunities, and yet also mindful that the world around us, nothing is guaranteed. And we have to make sure Singapore succeeds by making sure nobody gets left behind. So those were, it was the kind of the zeitgeist of that time, which, if you stop to think about it, is probably not that different from the situation today. Today, Singapore has, we're celebrating 50 years. Singapore has done well. There's no question about that, right? I mean, you can disagree about things, but there's no question that Singapore has succeeded. Frankly, it has succeeded beyond our wildest dreams. But having said that, it doesn't mean that the challenges are over, right? If you look at the state of the world, you look at the world economy, you look at the region, even in our close neighborhood, you look at terrorism, you look at the issues of race, language, and religion. There's no shortage of existential threats and challenges to Singapore. The question, therefore, is, having succeeded and having generated assets, and I don't mean tangible financial assets, but intellectual capital, social capital, what are we, especially the younger Singaporeans, going to do with this head start in order to overcome the challenges that confront us and to do even better than the last 50 years? So this is a special moment in time for Singapore and Singaporeans. And for undergraduates or graduates of recent graduates of today, you're going to have the ride of your life. In the sense that I don't think any one of you can predict with absolute certainty what you'll be doing 5 or 10 years from now. But you have a head start, and you better give it your best shot. And if we all succeed collectively, then Singapore's best years are ahead of us. So maybe we're back to the future.
I'm wondering,
Yeah.
for the benefit of the camera, maybe you can
Yes.
just read out part of the quote that you gave.
Oh, you want me to read it out?
Sorry for the handwriting.
No, it's okay. Okay, well, trying to remember an old speech I gave, very difficult. Well, our university education is highly subsidized, and Rag and Flag represents an occasion for us to repay our debt to society, a small token of our debt to society. The floats that we chose, the themes that we presented, reflected some of the issues that we felt concerned about at that point in time. And in a way, it also gives the public a chance to see what we are interested in, what are the issues that matter to young Singaporeans. But at the end of the day, the most important thing was the esprit de corps, the memories, the friendships, the process rather than the specific float. That was far more important. Okay? Okay, more or less that. I can't get it word for word.
Yeah, it's great that you can still remember it consciously.
No, I meant it. I mean, it wasn't just an idle comment.
What is one lesson that you learned from your Rag and Flag experience that has affected you or remained with you to this day?
The need for a multidisciplinary approach. I mean, Rag and Flag was one of the few occasions you get the entire university, all the faculties, all the hostels. It has remained my, firm belief since then that the solution to many of the challenges that we face will lie at the boundaries of the different disciplines. I'll give you an example, right? In medicine, it's not just what the doctors do or the research that doctors perform, but in fact, what will the engineers discover? What will the scientists discover? And how can we take the discoveries in different fields, integrate that, and generate novel solutions? Similarly, medicine doesn't, I'm using medicine because of medical background. Medicine doesn't exist in isolation, right? I mean, the practice of medicine has to be rooted in the society, the sociology, the anthropology in which we practice. So you need to know not just the science of medicine, there's the art of medicine. So again, it illustrates the need for a multidisciplinary approach. If you think about one big challenge in healthcare right now, it was and it remains healthcare financing. How do we get the economics right? How do we get the market forces so that the appropriate resources are channeled to where it makes the greatest impact for healthcare and welfare? So I'm just using all this as an example. One key lesson I've learned is that you need everyone on board. Okay, so it doesn't matter what you're studying, whether it's computer science or engineering or sociology or whatever. Many of the challenges that we're going to face in the future will require a team approach, a multidisciplinary, diverse team. And maybe that's my other plug for getting involved in the union. I mean, because you need to have friends and colleagues from different fields. So please, again, back to my plea, don't get stuck in the library. Don't get just stuck learning your own discipline. By all means, be as good as you can in your specific field of choice. But remember that the solutions to the really big challenges lie at the boundaries of people different from you.
Another question that we have is, what do you wish that this year's Rag and Flag participants will take away with them, that they will remember from their experience?
Well, this year's Rag and Flag is special because it's taking this part of our SG50 celebration. So I hope they'll be able to reflect on the journey that Singapore has taken over the last 50 years, on the way we have succeeded, on the way opportunities have been created, on our obligations to society, and on the fact that, like many things in life, we need a multidisciplinary approach to it. So I hope amongst all the fun and the esprit de corps and the camaraderie, some of these lessons of life will also be absorbed subconsciously.
And maybe our last question is, what do you hope will change or develop for future Rag and Flags?
I'm not sure it's for me to prescribe. Rag and Flag has always been organized by the students, for the students. I think we should have confidence that future generations of students will continue to have Rag and Flag. The Rag and Flag will continue to reflect their own interests and talents and ability, and that Rag and Flag will continue to remind students of the need to repay our debt to society and their obligation to serve society. So I hope for that in the abstract, but the details, the exact programming, the floats, the performances, leave that to the students and trust them.
Okay, I think that concludes our interview.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.